Hey, what it do? This is Miss Danny Baby back again. One more video before bedtime. It's getting late, y'all, so I'm gonna try to make this one short and sweet. But I want to ask the question: how many of y'all are gonna believe the fact that R. Kelly may also be not only a perpetrator of rape and abuse of young girls and young women in a sexual nature and in a sexual way? Not only is he being accused and indicted on these type of charges, but it looks like the government is actually, the federal government is actually looking at him for homeland security violations, and he's being investigated for sex trafficking. I briefly touched on that in my last video about R. Kelly not being able to afford his bail. But y'all, if this Negro is not able to vindicate himself on something as serious as sex trafficking, this is gonna be crazy. Look at this article just dropped a couple days ago. It says the Department of Homeland Security has opened an investigation into whether R. Kelly violated sex trafficking laws. Jim Derogatis, I also mentioned him in the last video, reports to the New Yorker. Kelly is also under investigation by the Federal Bureau of Investigations, the IRS, and the officials in Fulton County, Georgia, according to the report, which states that prosecutors have convened grand juries in both Chicago and the Southern District of New York, with a third grand jury expected to convene soon in New York's Eastern District. And they talk about the tapes that everybody is conversing about with the new allegations. He's shown urinating on the girl. She's reporting her age as 14. There's also a case in Florida that's brewing again. What's up with this dude in Chicago and Florida? I know he's from Chicago, but damn. And then New York. And the parents of one of the girls said that he was holding girls against their will. And the Department of Homeland Security is investigating whether Kelly transported girls over state lines for immoral purposes, which would violate federal legislation known as the Mann Act. So that's what I wanted to get into about that Mann Act. And there's people that's breaking their silence that had beef with him. One of them is a manager. Now, interesting. These people are falling out because of money disputes. All the while when he was raping young girls and young women, it was all well and good until the money stopped. So yeah, I call bullshit on a lot of these co-conspirators. I'm glad that they're talking. At least now it's better than never. But please, you guys are defending this kind of behavior. So that's one thing that we need to look into. But let's see here. When we're talking about the Mann Act and somebody violating those type of charges, this type of law was instituted in 1910. Now, if you think of 1910, that's over 100 years ago. It was only, like 40 years after slavery pretty much ended, about 45 years. And it says, in its original form, this act made it a felony to engage in interstate or foreign commerce transport of any woman or girl for the purpose of prostitution or debauchery or for any other immoral purpose. Its primary stated intent was to address prostitution, immorality, and human trafficking, particularly where the trafficking was for the purposes of prostitution. So during this time, the government was really, really concerned, I guess, because the cities were growing in popularity, urban areas were growing. And the government, to be honest, was concerned about the safety of white girls and white women. Now, under the umbrella of them being females and being protected, then that means that other girls could be protected, which is what is happening in 2019, over 100 years later. But back then, the concern was not so much little black girls and young black women. It was more so the white girls that they were concerned about, because back in the day, girls were basically escorted almost everywhere that they went. And with the growing urban centers, girls were being allowed to go in and, out and about by themselves, and they couldn't have a world where people thought it was okay to just nab broads. I guess the temptation was there because it was such a difference in the way that society was at the time. So I guess predators, when they saw young, pretty females, just walking around or didn't seem to have an escort, they thought it was a free for all to just grab and snatch somebody. That's crazy. With us being born in contemporary times, we can't even imagine a time. I mean, we know that rape has always happened since like forever, and abuse of women and children has always happened, or has happened for a very long time. I won't say always, but it's been going on for a very long time. So we know that, but we still can't imagine a world where just walking down a sidewalk in an everyday situation you might get kidnapped. That's kind of scandalous. Even though these days I'm getting a little more scary, and that saddens me a lot because I'm a grown ass woman. I shouldn't have to be nervous. Um, when summer comes and spring comes, you guys don't know, I like to go out and about, just get some sun, even if I ain't doing much or nothing, just to go to the park, walk around and up under the trees, sit in my car, listen to music, sit by the river, these pleasant places that we have in the city where you can go and just meditate and let your mind wander. But with the economy being going south, a lot of people can't find jobs. Prostitution is basically booming right now, and a lot of nefarious characters find this is a good way to make money. So when you're thinking about the sex trade, that automatically puts the most vulnerable people in the world at risk, and this is worldwide. um it's just really, really crazy. um Back then they were afraid of white slavery. With the white girls being attacked, and for them to put that on the books, it had to be a very real problem for white girls and white women. So can you imagine the threat that it would have been for black girls if they were scared about white girls? It's crazy. And I'm glad that the government did take a stand, even though it was not inspired by black women and black children, but at least it was protecting women on some level, and the government took a stand, so it set a precedent. And sadly, society has failed in a lot of cases, but with this being on the books, now we can go back and snatch a nigga like Kelly up and get him if he's been proven to be doing this type of thing. And you can guarantee he isn't doing it by himself. Something this elaborate, this detailed, this methodical. I'm sure it was not just the 3 victims. This dude been fucking children for decades, so it's been many that he's likely, at this point I will say allegedly, as far as the sex trafficking, this is alleged, but the government is looking into it, and it would not surprise me if they have come to some type of result to find out that he was involved in that. Because think about it, folks, rich people, they don't have time to go and just I'll say the lazy type of rich people. They don't want to interact with the public for real. A lot of them, and they still have sex drives. Some of them are perverted. So when you have a situation like that where you have these perverted characters with endless money, they'll tap, a dealer on the shoulder, like, hey, what can you get me? And there you have it. um Next thing you know, they're sending girls and little children up the river. It's really sad. And believe you me, if R. Kelly is found in something like this, he's not the only one. Here's a map that will show you guys the sex trafficking rate that we are at. The red spots are the danger zones where it's really heavily sex trafficking. You can see like the southeast, the northeast, even a lot in the northeast going towards the Midwest. Like, God. And then when you go over to the East Coast, girls are just being treated all types of goddamn ways. Hold on, y'all. But yeah, like I was saying, girls and children are being treated all types of ways, and this country is gonna have to answer for it. Believe you me. I'm looking at these notes here, but I don't know why my screen is messing up. Let me see if I can fix it. Hold on. Okay, here we go. And right here is telling you, and this is on the Polaris Project .org site. I'll list the link below at the end of this video, at the bottom of this video. But it'll tell you, it says, although slavery is commonly thought to be a thing of the past, human traffickers generate hundreds of billions of dollars in profits by trapping millions of people in horrific situations around the world, including here in the U.S. Traffickers use violence, threats, deception, debt bondage, and other manipulative tactics to force people to engage in commercial sex or to provide labor or services against their will. While more research is needed on the scope of human trafficking, below are a few key statistics. It says the International Labor Organization estimates that there are 40.3 million victims of human trafficking globally. 81% are trapped in forced labor. 25% of them are children. 75% are women and girls. It says it's estimated that it's human trafficking is $150 billion industry worldwide. When it says like forced labor, I remember hearing about like with the Nike camps where they were forcing people to work in those it's like basically almost like a concentration camp, quote unquote, under the guise of a real job, where these young girls would come from the country and from rural areas to what they thought of as the bigger city to try to get a job and send money home back to their families. And once they got there, just to pay for room and board, they were like basically stuck, where they weren't allowed. Their comings and goings were heavily monitored. They had meager food rations and ugly places to sleep, like just wretched conditions, and we're making pennies on a dollar to work all kinds of hours of day to sew garments and make shoes and stuff like that. That was talked about 20 years ago. And just because we don't hear about it as far as like Nike so much, that doesn't mean that energy has went away. So now it's morphed into not just forced labor, but actual sexual slavery. Y'all, that is so scary. That is so fucking scary. It says as of 2017, an estimated 1 out of 7 endangered runaways reported to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children were likely sex trafficking victims. I did read something about that, where they said a lot of the kids that are in foster care, they just transition into sexual bondage. Actually, they might run away from a foster home or something, and then they're on the streets, and beguiling sneaky, perverted little characters out there will entice them to, hey, we'll take care of you, you can work for us. And next thing you know, the child is a victim of sexual slavery. If a kid is out of a foster home, so they don't have any accountable parents for real, they're in this foster home or in this foster shelter, and then they run away, and then some monstrous character tricks them into coming with them, who's to say what happens to their child if they get snuck overseas across the water? They get that kid on a plane or a boat somewhere out of this country or even out of their city, but especially out of this country, it's a wrap. That kid is good as dead. Once they use it for whatever they want it for, it's a wrap. They're gone. There is a hotline that I'm also list at the bottom of this video where you can call if you think you've spotted a traffic victim. I believe you can report it anonymously. You don't have to tell who you are. There's different ways that you can report this, but y'all, we have to at least speak out. Even when it's scary. Not to say you got to put an S on your chest and stand with the rifle like you're going to defend the whole world, but each one reach one. If we, one person do a little and we're all doing a little, that little added up with a bunch of us doing it, we can save lives. And we need to bring awareness to this issue. Rkelly is not the only monster when it comes to the sex trafficking problem. He's just the tip of the iceberg. He's just a famous name that we could possibly tie to this type of action. But trust and believe this stuff has been going on for a long time, and the narcs in control intend for it to go on forever. If they had their way, they would enslave all of us. It's gotten so bad, y'all. Y'all have heard of like pet chips, right? Chips going inside of your pet in case they get lost. Matter of fact, the kitten I just adopted last summer, and I plan on putting a video up of her for anyone that's interested. She's just a cutie, and I like to see videos of her. She inspires me and makes me feel good because the world can be so ugly. But I found this article. Somebody brought up this article, actually. Let me see if I can adjust it. Hold on just a second. Okay, here we go. This article, it says, doctor extracts FID chip from sex trafficking victim everyone called crazy. And I'll list this article below as well. But apparently this woman had been sex trafficked, a young patient, for a while, and she escaped. But she figured that something had been put inside of her, and she told the doctor, she says, I have a tracker in me. When she went to the emergency room, and she said that she had been implanted with a GPS tracking device of some kind. And though unusual, they kind of just, like it says here, they just rolled their eyes. They didn't know if she's mentally ill or whatnot. But after x-raying her, they found a GPS tracker. It says they stood in disbelief as they found it. It says embedded in the right side of the flank in a small metallic, there was a small metallic object, only a little bit larger than a grain of rice. Recounted the doctor. He said, even though it's as small as a grain of rice, it's still there. Says, but it's there. It's unequivocally there. She has a tracker in her, and no one was speaking for like 5 seconds. And in a busy ER, that's saying something. It says it was a glass capsule with a little, almost like a circuit board inside of it. So, peep game on this, y'all. It says the RFID chip is usually used to tag cats and dogs. Someone had tagged her like an animal, like she was somebody's pet that they owned. Y'all. It says, in fact, the unmarried woman had been treated as a pet, as a possession by her boyfriend, who sold her into sex and pocketed the money she brought back. See, this is a problem in patriarchy. When we have malevolent, dangerous energy that seeks to control women and children. especially when a economy gets bad. I'm telling y'all, the pimp hand gets strong. These dudes be feeling like they got all kind of rights over women's bodies. You know what I'm saying? They want to eat regardless. They don't care if you go down with the ship, if you drown in your own blood. They don't care. These type of dudes will have you selling ass on a corner. And I also heard recently that the statistics for older women are going up. When I'm saying older women, I'm not talking about like 50, 60 years old, but they're not necessarily looking for young girls that are teenagers anymore. You know, they want, because I guess maybe when you have like a rich client, some of them have different tastes. They want a more adult looking adult body. So if you even look like you're a young woman out here walking these streets, you can be attacked. And even if you're not being spotted for sex trafficking, you could just come into contact with a weirdo, catch you off guard, not on your not on your game, up on your toes, just catch you vulnerable and slipping somewhere, and there you go, getting taken advantage of unsuspectingly. Like I said, I like to go for parks and go for walks, and this world has gone crazy. And it says that this is a colossal problem in every corner of the globe, including the United States. Look at this, y'all. Modern day slavery is alive and unfortunately booming even in the US. It's sad. And it just goes into detail the different reasons why people might traffic others, not just for sex, but for forced labor. Like I said, like the Nike situation. And y'all, you naive women, I've been naive for a majority of my life as well, y'all. This world, our parents, the black parents, send their children, especially their girl children, out into this world unprepared for what it takes to protect yourself. Any girl listening to this, or any sister, woman, peer of mine, please be aware of your surroundings, okay? Because there are some dirty ass women out here. When I'm saying dirty, I mean dirty in character and dirty in spirit, that will actually set you up to be trafficked or taken advantage of by a male counterpart. That goes on too. Especially these young girls. Don't be trusting somebody just because some woman is talking about, oh, your girl, come over here. I can take you here. I can take you there. You know, some strange woman out of nowhere trying to convince you to come somewhere, you know, that's not public or whatever. Be very suspicious of that, of strangers coming up to you in any kind of way, in the grocery store parking lot, at the mall, anything. I don't care if it's a girl, I don't care if it's a woman. Do not just trust it. Get the fuck inside your car or inside the building, wherever you're going, and keep it the fuck moving. These are dangerous times, y'all. Dangerous times. If you got the money to strap up, get you a firearm, and follow the legal law, you know, in your city and in your state that it takes to have a firearm. If you're scared of guns, get some other type of device to protect yourself, like some pepper spray. But the best thing you could do is just be vigilant. Don't be in any place that will make you vulnerable, where you're alone. If you're going out on outings, like to clubs, and with the Jasmine Island situation, even clubs are scaring me. I mean, like, yo, it's really perilous times for children and women. The vulnerable, the physically weaker sex. So this is just my observation. As more information comes available on this, I will bring it. But I'm telling you, in the technical era where technology is just booming at lightning speed. These mad scientists and people that have a narcissistic, demonic, psychopathic mindset, they want to enslave other beings in every way that they can. The corporate plantation, we can talk about that. That's one way of willing slavery because you have to have money to pay your bills. But outside of that, there's things that are far worse than that, 1,000 times worse. People are kidnapping actual living human beings like they're animals, goats, cows, and horses and shit. And I don't believe in abusing animals, okay? But human beings are being treated less than animals, being not only tagged with chips as if they're property, but actually putting them into sexual bondage. That's just crazy. And it's going to take a lot of us, especially women, to get on board. You cannot co-sign this kind of behavior. So when we have cats like R. Kelly being defended by women, they're perpetuating their own inferiority and bondage by demonic energy. These hoes do not know what the hell, or maybe they do know, they don't care. Their life has been miserable, so they wanted all other women on alongside them and after them to suffer the same fate that they have. Maybe could be some shit like that, some jealousy. But also with this community being so toxic, a lot of women develop self-hate. You have to really do some soul searching and some find yourself and learn to love yourself in order to break free of the shackles of that type of energy, because it'll have you drowning out here. That's how a lot of little girls get caught up. It's sad that we have kids and that have to be in foster care anyway. And I can go into a whole nother discussion on that, foster care, when girls get pregnant, birthing versus abortion. We can get in a whole nother discussion on that, but I'm not even going to talk about that here. Let's keep it focused. Keep it focused. Come back. Bring it back to R. Kelly and possible sex trafficking charges. Yo, he already got 10 charges on him. If they're able to expand this and tie it to other people, other wealthy people that participated, all his homies and cronies, y'all, this is just the tip of the iceberg. This is the tip of the iceberg. So keep your ears to the streets and pay attention and be vigilant and very aware of your surroundings out here, because shit is really getting real. That's all I had to say right now. I'm going to end it at this time, and I'd love to hear your comments. Talk to y'all later.